Today's big question: why don't we have a relegation system in American sports? You know, here in the United States, we love our sporting contests, but there's always that one glaring issue. No matter how bad your team is, they're never relegated to a lower division, which means they can never win the championship, even though they're technically capable of doing so. So why is this? Why don't we have a system where the worst teams get relegated and the best teams from the lower divisions get promoted? Well, it comes down to money. The U.S. sports model is built around the idea that teams should be rewarded for good performance, but also protected from the threat of relegation if they happen to be bad. That way, no matter what, they'll always be able to sell their product, which is what all these leagues are ultimately trying to do: sell their product. In Major League Soccer, for example, the bottom two teams are automatically relegated each season. Yes, automatically, and replaced by the top two teams from the USL Championship. But that's not the case for America's other big four professional sports leagues: the NBA, NFL, MLB, and NHL. And that's because their business model is built around something called guaranteed revenue sharing. Each team owner buys into the league with the understanding that they will always be able to sell their tickets, no matter how bad the team is. And the money they make from ticket sales gets distributed throughout the league to help support the smaller market teams. This way, every team is always able to field a competitive roster, and thus the quality of play is always able to be quote-unquote competitive. But the downside, of course, is that no team can ever be relegated to a lower division, no matter how bad they are. In fact, the worst team in MLS last year, the Chicago Fire, actually made the playoffs. Can you imagine if that happened in Europe? The English Premier League would probably re-sign their television deal with Sky and be relegated to the championship. Now, there are a few benefits to America's revenue sharing model. For one, small market teams are able to compete for championships every year, which is why the small market Miami Heat were able to win an NBA championship in 2006, and why the small market Tampa Bay Lightning are competing for a Stanley Cup this year. Plus, it makes for better storylines. Nobody would have predicted that the lowly Lions would make the Super Bowl this year. But thanks to the NFL's revenue sharing model, they were able to build a competitive roster, surprise, surprise, and make it all the way to the big game. But the biggest benefit of all is that it provides stability for the franchises. No matter how bad they are, they'll always be able to sell their product. And that's ultimately what these leagues are all about: selling their product. So there you go. That's why we don't have a relegation system in American sports. It's because the owners prefer stability to competition. They prefer the security of knowing that they'll always be able to sell their product no matter how bad it is, than they do the risk of potentially getting relegated to a lower division. This is your host. Thanks for watching till the end, and see you tomorrow.